Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I create videos and content about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships. If you have a question that you want me to answer on this channel, make sure that you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. So make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and you're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe notification and the bell notification so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. I upload new videos on this channel 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And also, this video is being sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you need more help than what this video can provide, make sure that you connect with a licensed therapist through BetterHelp. They are a partner of this channel. And so you can go to the links down below and you will get 15% off your first month with your online therapist. And what's nice about that is that an online therapist through BetterHelp will be more affordable than an in-person therapist, and you can actually get in quicker. So make sure you take full advantage of that. And all the links for that are down below. With all that being said, let's get into today's email. So today's email comes from a person who is struggling. And so this is a situation, a co-parenting situation with a narcissist who is threatening to not return the child in a timely manner, and they have custody arrangements. They've gone to court, like I've talked about. So let's get into this email. Let's break down what to do in this type of situation. It can be very difficult. Let's see if we can help this person out, and let's see if we can help out some other people all at the same time. So let's get into this. So, hi Matt. I listen to your podcast and how to co-parent with a narcissist on Kajabi regularly. So for those of you who don't know, I have a course on co-parenting with a narcissist, and that's what this person is referring to. And if that's something that you're interested in, there's links for that down below as well. I recently wrapped up a court battle that lasted a little over 2 years. Good for you. It is worth the fight because you need everything on paper, and we're going to start to understand why. Thanks to your advice, I thoroughly documented everything, and it paid off. I was awarded sole custody, decision-making, and I am primary parent. Good for you. And I'm glad to hear that you did everything, that we talked about in that course, and everything we talked about in the podcast and also here as well. But you're going to see the reason why this all pays off, because it's not just about the custody battle. It's because we know that the narcissist is not going to comply. We need to anticipate that. And this is the reason why I tell people that we have to go to court. Oftentimes people make the mistake of trying to avoid it. And we're going to see the reason why all of this hard work that this person did is going to pay off here in a little bit. So I was awarded sole custody and decision-making. I'm the primary parent. My child's father has yet to be out of contempt of court for other reasons, but he's about to dig his hole deeper. So he's in contempt of court. I didn't read that properly, but he's in contempt of court and he's about to dig his hole deeper. We were both awarded non-consecutive 7-day periods in the summer months to spend with our child. This week has to include our weekend. He has recently informed me that he is taking a week that includes my weekend because that is when he has plans. Of course, with the narcissist, everything is all about them. There's no compromise. It is all about what they want, even though the courts state that he cannot do that. So we'll put a bookmark there as you guys are listening, that he can't just take the child on a weekend that he wants to, some random weekend that he wants to, that cuts into this person's time. I have contacted my lawyer, and he reached out to my ex's lawyer, but so far things have been silent. So this is common. Sometimes the lawyer of the opposing party does not respond. If this is your situation, don't freak out. Let your lawyer do their job. Oftentimes, one of the things you hear me saying often is that codependents also struggle with control. Let it go. The reason why we need to let it go is that just like this person talked about, that he's already in contempt of court. Let the narcissist dig their own grave. Give them enough rope to hang themselves. Let the court, let the judge, let them do their job. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that here in just a second. Let's continue to read. His lawyer has not responded, and my ex has told me that he changed his week. Of course, they just changed their week. I explained to him that I could not do that, but like I suspected, it did not go good. He continued to insist that he was taking his time then. He blocked my number shortly after our conversation, and it was blocked for about 5 days. He will be leaving the state during his 7-day period. If he does decide to proceed and takes his 7-day period on my weekend, what do you suggest I do? You contact your lawyer, you talk to your lawyer and you come up with a strategy and a plan. That's number one. That strategy and that plan may be to call the police or to call the sheriff to enforce and to violate this order. The concern here is that obviously the narcissist is potentially taking the child out of state. And so let's continue with this message, because I know that there's some concerns from the person who's writing about them actually calling the sheriff or calling the police. So this continues. My daughter is going to be 3 in September, so she is not clueless to the hostility that he has, and I don't want her to be upset with the police presence like you advise. So this is a very common theme that I encounter when I'm talking to someone, is that they don't want to enforce things because they're afraid of what the impact it might have on the child. They're afraid of upsetting the child. Upset the child. You can't avoid it. One of the things that we have to understand is that we have to prepare our children for the world. We don't prepare the world for our children. This is necessary. And one of the things that we have to understand is that it's our responsibility to teach our children how to manage emotions when bad things happen. Not if, when bad things happen. And so one of the things that we have to understand is that yes, that your child might be upset if the police are called on their parents. And remember, this is the reason why it's so important for us to be self-aware of our own codependency issues. It is because we oftentimes try to cater too much. But what happens through this situation is that if you don't call the police, you basically tell your ex, you tell your lawyer, and you tell the judge that what he did was okay. That is perfectly fine. And what happens, and this is something that happens a lot. Oftentimes I will tell people, or I'll talk to people, or you'll see people on social media, and they'll say, oh, the judge never believes victims, this and that. And this is actually the reason why. Because what happens is that if this person decided not to call the police, or for people to not enforce the order, what happens is that you go to court, and what happens is that the judge, remember, I've said this in other videos, the judge does not want to hear about victims. And for a lot of times people, they hear this and they say to themselves, but I am a victim. Yes, but in court, you need to be an adult. An adult decision, if this is really actually concerning, think about this for a second, right? If you're really concerned about the child, call the goddamn cops, period. And I'm very passionate about this, because what happens, I can't tell you how many times in a week that I talk to someone and they don't execute it. And then the judge, the lawyers say, why didn't you do this? You need the paper trail if you're really concerned. And both men and women do this when I talk to them. They try to cater, they try to minimize, they try to either avoid the conflict because they don't want the conflict with their ex, or they don't want to hurt the feelings of the child. Then they get in court and they say, if there was such a sense of urgency, you basically tie their hands, right? You tie the hands of the decision making of the judge and of the lawyers and that sort of thing, because you did not execute on the plan. They gave you the paperwork, right? You have all the paperwork. You did a masterful job in terms of documenting and getting the boundaries set with court. Now it's time to enforce. And if we have concerns about the child, and oftentimes people will go days, weeks, months, right? So in other alienation cases, sometimes I've heard of parents going months without filing for modification, and that person is withholding the children from them. And then when they get to court, the judge is like, well, if this was such a concern, why didn't you file right away? When we have an opportunity to file or call the police, we need to do it immediately, quick. And for those of you who may have experienced this for a long period of time, it's not too late. Just make sure that you do it as soon as you possibly can, right away, because it shows the judge that you were not in agreement with this. This was a unilateral decision, is what they call it in court, and that this is a sense of urgency. If in the eyes of the judge, if you don't care, they don't care. So we have to be very aware of our own enabling behavior. And that's the struggle with codependency, is that oftentimes, because we're trying to avoid conflict and we want to cater to people's feelings and people's emotions, and we think that we're responsible for everyone else's emotions, that we're not realizing, we're not paying attention to us actually enabling and actually encouraging the narcissist to continue this type of behavior. Let's get back into this, and then we'll close this video out. But since he is living in state, should I want long-term victories, but I also don't want to allow him to run off. So don't allow for, or well, not only, so quite often we try to prevent, right? The codependent tries to prevent the narcissist from doing things. Sometimes we need to let them do it, let them bury, and keep in mind, going back to that bookmark that I was talking about, he already has a paper trail of being in contempt of court. This is major, right? This is big. Let him bury himself again, right? Let him fuck himself over, right? And then not only do you have the paper trail of the contempt of court of everything that he's already done, you have him making unilateral decisions, you have his lawyer not reaching out. What you have is basically this whole ball, right? This is like and I understand that it's stressful for you going through this, but this is like a perfect scenario for you to just slam this thing in court. You have a person that's making unilateral decisions with the documentation that you already have before even going into court. You have a paper trail of contempt of court. You've had to call the police on him. He's withholding. He's violating your rights as a parent. He's violating the rights of the child. And so you have this scenario that eventually, if he continues to go down this road, when you go back to what you said in terms of long-term victories, they potentially could begin to sanction him. And if this behavior continues, or if it gets worse, they could completely violate his rights altogether. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but you kind of get what I'm saying, right? Is that we have to do the job. We have to participate. And unfortunately, sometimes that means that participating and enforcing the boundary makes things uncomfortable for a period of time for you and your daughter. But going back to what you said in terms of long-term victories, long-term, you're not allowing for this person to push you over, and the emotional things that your child feels are going to let this person know that this type of behavior is unacceptable. That's the other enabling piece that we want to make sure that we teach our child, that this behavior is unacceptable. Let's continue on with this email. His lawyer informed us during the final day of court that we would be back because he wants 50-50 when our child starts school. Do I save this for then, or do I file a motion? File the goddamn motion immediately, especially once he leaves. And the reason why, again, so he's fighting for more time. He wants 50-50 during, not just during the summer, but also during the school year. Why? So think about this. If you actually enforce and you have the paper trail and you have everything, why would the judge grant this for him? He would look absolutely goofy. But let's reverse the role. Let's say that you don't enforce anything. Now, all of a sudden, when you go to court and you say, Your Honor, he's violating the court order, the judge is going to look back at you and say, why didn't you say anything? If it was such a concern, right? If it was such a concern, why are you just now bringing this to the table? So do this immediately. Give him enough rope to hang himself. Thank you very much for writing in. Anyone else who wants to write in, who has a question, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max. Be very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. Also, if you need more help than what this video can provide, this video and this channel is sponsored by BetterHelp. Connect with a therapist, an online therapist. It is more affordable. You can get in a lot faster. And with my link, you'll get 15% off your first month of therapy. So with all that being said, thank you guys very much. And I will see you guys in the next video.